All right. Good evening, everyone. So as people are starting to file into the room, I'll just introduce what we're here doing. This is marketing for real estate investors, and we are trying to do this every week on Monday evenings from 7 to 9. I usually have my co-host Carrie Like with me, but she'll be popping in a little bit later. She had some things come up for this evening. But tonight we have a special guest host, Ryan from REI Print Mail, Ryan Dixon, and Amy Ransell has stepped up onto the stage to chat with us this evening as well. So we're here to talk about direct mail marketing specifically tonight. What it takes to, work with direct mail marketing and have it be successful, just like any other channel or strategy with marketing. We were talking a little bit here earlier about how it really just takes being consistent and intentional and tracking your data and making sure you really understand the numbers in whatever you're doing. And any strategy works, but I personally love direct mail. That's been my favorite strategy over the years, although I do dabble in some other things, but direct mail is the one that I have mastered the most. And so I just always love to fall back on it no matter what, although things are always changing. And that's something that we were talking about as well. So Ryan, why don't you take a moment and go ahead and introduce yourself to the people that are in the room?
Yeah, so my name, Ryan Dixon. I am a direct marketing coach with REI Print Mail, and you can find us at reiprintmail.com. And basically what we do is we, unlike really anyone else in the industry, we offer you a direct marketing coach that knows what they're doing. They practice what they preach, and they analyze all different types of markets. And we give you free advice on what you should do, what you should send, what works where. And we really shine when it comes to cases like we've seen with COVID and the holiday and the election kind of all compiling into one, and response rate starts to get shaky. And as we see things work better in different places, we give that kind of advice, and we say, hey, here's what we're seeing works over there, and this is what we should try. And so, for instance, as we saw a lot of handwritten mail start to come back. So it's been really, the picture of the house on the postcard, and the picture of the Google image on the letter. And that's really kind of been dominating amongst some other things, and really kind of loud marketing. But we saw that change with COVID and some other things. And so as we started to see a change, we gave advice to our clients about how the marketing winds have changed, and we need to pivot with it. So that's what we do, is we give advice like that, and we help with cadences and how often should we send, and not only that, what kind of lists should we send. We have the benefit of not only, we of course sell data, but we have the benefit of seeing what data works, and what's the hierarchy of lists that we should be focusing on. Focusing on vacants more than absentee, and it really depends on the market, right, where we're at. So when all of those questions come up, you need somebody to help answer them, and that's what we do. And then we become an ally. And you're really a partner in the response rate, and help build that deal flow. And so that's the basics of what we do. Of course, it is a science. It's not a rocket science, but there's way more to it than that. But that's the basics.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here with us tonight. And I know you're new to Clubhouse, so it's awesome to have you up here and actually learning a little bit about the process as well. So I really appreciate you taking this time. And Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Hey, so I'm an accidental speaker. So I jumped in. I appreciate you guys bringing me up while we were waiting for people to get started. I am a broker and investor in the Atlanta market, and I've been doing both for almost 20 years here. We have quite a large group that we support that's a mixture of both licensees and non-licensees. Throughout all that, we do a ton of coaching. It's a very important thread through all that we do. And for anybody listening tonight, if you're looking for highly skilled, pre-trained virtual assistants in real estate, you would want to talk to me. So I am the CMO and one of the team members that leads REBA Global. Would love to help you guys with that. So like this direct mail topic tonight, we do direct mail. We have all of the leads, all the intake process from all of our direct mail campaigns are actually managed by virtual lead managers. All the calls come straight into our virtual assistants. They're trained to do the research, qualify the leads, research everything, even write offers, and then follow up and nurture those leads all the way for even years until they become a deal. So it makes it really great for us from a leveraging position. So to use Ryan's phrase earlier, we practice what we preach. And I am able to do all the different businesses that I do because we outsource. So if anybody needs any support there, I'd love to help. Welcome to follow me on Instagram or just check out my profile. And if I can be of assistance, let me know. And I appreciate you guys having me.
Awesome. And we really appreciate you stepping in here and being willing to step up on stage as a speaker. And I would just ask that anybody's in the room, if you could hit that little plus sign and invite some people in that might be interested in this topic. We definitely want to have a nice conversation about this tonight. And we've got some really skilled expert people up on the stage willing to answer questions and engage in this. So we'd love to have more people come into the room. So I know both of you, and before more people stepped into the room, we're talking about the data aspect of it. And Ryan, I know that's a big part of what your business does. So why don't you guys, and you can just, whoever wants to talk first, why don't you talk a little bit about how you look at the data when it comes to direct mail marketing, or, since both of you extend past that, if there's anything else that you want to talk about data related, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So and I'm gonna speak a lot to what I'm seeing right now, what I'm seeing in the current climate. Lately, we've been really looking at overall phone calls, and trying to make sure that, because not all phone calls are great. You have you should know where my house is because you sent me the mail piece. Happens all the time. If you send a lot of mail, you're very, very used to that. And so a lot of times we do drill down on what types of leads and that kind of thing. As we saw these marketing winds kind of change, we've been really looking at the overall phone call and trying to decide, are we using the right list and is our mail piece compelling? Which once we get past that, you can kind of get into the scaling up, which we did have a bunch of clients in some rough markets have to go back to kind of testing, and we had to figure out and crack the code again. And in other markets that wasn't the case, but in the ones where we did, we really started focusing on our cost per phone call, as we usually do. That's always very important, but we're looking at it even more now, and kind of referencing what type of list the majority of those phone calls are coming from. So cost per phone call, incredibly important. What we're finding is that with letters right now, and even self-mailers, and for those of you that don't know what that is, a self-mailer is basically a letter without an envelope. So we're seeing a huge uptick in self-mailers and handwritten mail. And that is coming from areas where it was a more louder piece, brighter colors, more gimmicky type piece, if you will. Maybe not gimmicks, but hopefully you get what I'm saying, that it's more of an advertising piece. So we're getting a change from that over to more handwritten pieces right now. And so that is super, super important as we're looking at those that data. It's really important to see that mail piece is actually resonating with the crowd. And as we kind of look at our numbers, that's something that we've had to drill down more on. Whereas about 3 or 4 months ago, it was much easier in those markets. So that's something we've really been focusing on. And to do that, we're using our text function, which I could explain more about later, but basically we're using that to track really close KPIs and figure out what pieces in different markets are working.
That's awesome. And I really like that text feature. So I'm glad that you're going to share that with everybody here in a few. Amy, how about you?
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm gonna answer the question exactly how you asked it, but just a couple direct mail, nuggets that I think are important. One is that if you're going to go after direct mail for results, this is a marathon, not a sprint. right? Like you need to prepare to actually make an investment over time. So what we're finding, what has always historically been true, but is still very true, is that my being consistently present in front of that lead is what's getting me those deals. That combined with very powerful follow-up, right? So I don't send one piece. I want to plan to send a succession of pieces. And I think that's key. So a lot of people, they have a tiny little budget, more time than money, and they want to they buy a little list and they send one postcard once and they're like, oh, it doesn't work. Okay, no, it does. However, so you want to prepare. We're noticing an uptick and back. This is my fourth shift of the market where all of a sudden we have this really hot volume, a lot of virtual guys, people at other markets dropping $100,000 in my market, direct mail. So we're seeing some of the big uptick on the amount of mail that sellers are getting. And so you brought up a good point, Ryan, about your pieces have to stand out. So like we're having success again with what we call lumpy mailers. We used to do a lot of those in the years back. It's very creative things that we sent. It costs a little bit more per mail piece, but we're testing those. We do split tests, so we'll pull a list. We'll send different types of mail, which is another point that I would love to bring up to everybody. I'm sure Ryan, you agree with this. Like there are different sellers, there's different types of personalities and different decision strategies. They will respond to the mail piece that responds to them. And so where one seller will respond to a handwritten letter, another seller will be skeptical of that, throw that away, but they'll respond to a professional letter, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing a succession of pieces so that you get a piece in front of the person that matches their strategy. And then I think another thing, I love that you highlighted the text feature. I think that's great that you guys had that. For everybody listening, I've always been a proponent of some sort of way for the person receiving the mail to anonymously get information, whether it's a 1-800 number where they can listen to some sort of descriptor about something, the foreclosure process in Georgia, listen here for blah, 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 right? Or texting free information, or texting to get some sort of free download or education, because it's a value proposition and because they don't feel pressure. But now you've captured them, true capture, into your database. You know exactly what direct mail piece they came from and what part of the succession of events, and you can follow up with them, right? So I think those are important pieces. So I love that you guys, Ryan, offer the services that you offer. Many investors just simply don't take the time to even track any of that. My KPI tracker would blow everybody's mind. Like, it's extremely detailed. We track every campaign because every campaign is an investment of resources, and I want to know what ROI I'm getting for it. So I love that you do what you do. I think it's great.
Thank you. And I want to speak to that too, because you're absolutely right. To get what I call compounding interest, we have to be consistent. And so compounding interest is what makes mail, to me, the cheapest form of marketing. And that's why when you talk to real estate investors that have been doing mail a long time, we're all pretty convinced, hey, it's the cheapest form of marketing, because I may have not sent my mail out this month, but I got 2 or 3 calls, right? Because I've got that compounding interest. And in order to get that, I have to be consistent for quite some time. And that's really the hurdle we got to get over. If we can get over that hurdle, then suddenly you start getting phone calls. I just had a deal with 2 single-family homes and 2 duplexes. I don't know if we're going to get all of them, but we actually tracked it back to about a year and 3 months ago, where we were mailing on the outskirts of a St. Louis town here. It's called Dittmer, and we did a $22,000 deal. We sent 1,600 pieces, and we thought, that's great. We did really well with this mail piece. Well, then here we are, a few months later, and we get another phone call from that campaign. And that was because we were staying consistent. And she actually said, well, you guys have been mailing me for a long time. And we were keeping up. Now, at that point, I think she was probably on my quarterly campaign. But she got a bunch of different things, a letter, a few postcards. And here we are looking at a possible $70,000, $80,000 wholesale assignment deal. And that's because of the compounding interest of the mail. But you don't get there until you've been consistent. So I agree with that, Amy. And then also, to to speak about our text function, this is it's a very different tool. And so if I can explain exactly what it is, I'll tell you, it's pretty neat. Basically, if you give us a list of 10,000 addresses, we append that list with 10,000 different short codes. Each short code is unique to each postcard. So on a postcard, let's say you have a picture of their house and it says, is this your property? I want to buy it. For a fair cash offer, text ABCD to 1234. Well, when someone chooses to do that, instead of call the call rail number or the phone number that you have on the card as well, because they could do both. But if they choose to text that short code, two things happen. One, you get an email lead with their first name, last name, property address, mailing address, and cell phone number. And then the prospect gets a text message that basically introduces you and might say, hey, Bob, thanks for reaching out. I'm interested in buying your property. I need to know a couple of quick things first. I'll be calling you shortly, but if you need to contact me now, here's my information. And by the way, here's a website. Go ahead and take a look at it, which could be the beginning of your funnel, right? So it's a way to deliver a link or the beginning of a funnel safely without them going to Google and seeing your competitors, which could be a problem. So that's the text function. So when we invented that, we inadvertently created a way for us to be able to track which mail pieces work best in different areas. And we know we're the only ones that have this, but basically when somebody across the United States orders from our website, and we get to see, all right, this mail piece got this response rate. And now it's not all of the response rate, it's only a portion of it, only the people that actually use the text code. But we can use that and to scale, and we can say, hey, pink's working better over here than yellow is. And so that's what kind of is the basis of a lot of our recommendations, not to mention just our experience, because we have so many clients, thousands across the country. So that helps us, of course. But besides that, the software really stands out. So that's our texting function. It's not what most people think that it is. We actually call it reverse texting.
Well, I really like that. And I think it's really useful too, because so many people don't want to pick up the phone and call. And if you have something like that, it feels really kind of like a low commitment level, and they can get more information returned right to them. And like Amy was saying, like having some option in your marketing where, somebody can reach out and have some sort of recorded information or somewhere that they can get more information easily without having to pick up the phone and call. So this is a great conversation. I really appreciate you guys being here, and just take a quick moment to just kind of repeat that we're here to talk about marketing every Monday night for real estate investing specifically, and anything that goes along with that. And tonight is direct mail marketing. So I invited Ryan to be here with me tonight, and then Amy stepped in, and so she provides so much value. I was so excited to have her step up on the stage as well. But so we're just here to chit chat about what we're doing and what works and what the best ways to approach it are. So thank you so much, Ryan and Amy, for being here with us this evening. And, what keeps coming back to me, and I think so many investors aren't really tapped into when they're first getting started, is the data element of things. And I know we've been talking a lot about that. So, I know we have very few people in the room here, but let's say somebody is wanting to get started on the right foot with direct mail marketing as a new marketing channel for themselves. What sort of steps do you think they would need to take to do it right from the start and make sure that they're tracking the right data? And either one of you that has something that you'd like to add can take that.
I'll tell you what we're doing right now with our newer clients that are especially in areas where we're not sure about the response rate to a point where we're over 50-60% sure that we can get a great response rate. I actually create a campaign that is a bit of a sandwich. Basically, what we do is we take a control piece and we take a control piece that we know has been getting effective results in the area. And let's say we're doing a quarter-long campaign. And if we're doing a quarter-long campaign and we're dropping once a month over a 3-month period, then we have control piece, test piece, control piece. And so what that allows us to do is track that and see if we have an uptick or a downtick in the middle of that campaign. And not to mention, of course, you can use more tracking numbers on each piece to get a better idea. But basically, what we're doing is we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We know we have a control piece, so we're not going to sacrifice getting deals, and we're going to be able to track those, and then we're going to be able to track our test piece. And really simply, the winner moves forward. Again, it's science, but not rocket science. And so we're able to take that really safe strategy, and we're able to say, all right, this quarter, living our lives one quarter at a time, this was the winner. So now we're going to move forward. So generally, after we do that a couple times, we have a pretty darn good idea about how to take that piece, and really we got to get our money out of it now. So then we send the winner of that piece, or that campaign rather, we send it as much as we can. Whatever our budget would allow, and we're confident that we're getting a low cost per phone call, and we're using an effective piece in the area. Now, sometimes testing takes longer, but again, using that control piece, we're getting deals along the way. So important.
I love it. And how about you, Amy? I know you work with clients and help them to build their business systems and all their data and everything. So what would you recommend for somebody that's just getting started with direct mail?
And my phone's going in and out. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm in transition. I was planning to just listen in, so I'm sorry. For all of my clients with direct mail, again, there's just so, and Ryan, I know you can empathize with this. There's so many variables, right? There's just so many variables. Where do they pull their data from? What are they selecting? Do they have the message of the mail piece matching the pain of the person they're sending it to? I mean, there's just so many variables, right? So we try to set targets, and we try to set targets for the highest response rate possible. But we also try to set targets for, sorry, I'm driving, just measuring everything. And I keep coming back to that, and it sounds like it's just such a cliche answer, but that's really what the answer is. Because the response rate, I could send 25,000 pieces of mail out and have a 0 response rate, right? So we always try not to let that happen. And services like what you have on seems to be pretty cool, because people can come to you, and you guys have already had some test app data for them to start from. For me, it's just walking them through, okay, what do you want from this? What is your greater intention? Like, what is your goal? What type of business are you trying to get from this? What services do you provide? What sellers need those services? Like, what is that, right? I'm not going to send a rent-to-own campaign or an owner finance campaign to people who are in over-leveraged mortgage position. Right? So helping them match the message to who they're sending it to, helping them work through their budget so that they have the opportunity to get honed in, dialed in on the list they're going to go after, and that they have multiple pieces to actually do a sandwich test like you just described, or something similar, so that they don't also set themselves up for potential failure there, where they're only getting a couple calls up the first round, and then that's it, right? So I think that's really what it comes down to. Is what will your response rate be? Well, let's go test and measure. We try to mitigate for problems so that you have the highest likelihood of the best response rate, but the reality is you have to look. In fact, we have a mail piece that's still on the wall. It's framed from a campaign from years and years and years and years ago, that we were all at the time, we were hungry and not as experienced, and we were convinced that it would be the most amazing campaign ever. So good so that we even hired people, trained them on the phone, ready to take calls in the office, the whole thing. That mail piece dropped, not a single phone call came in. It was a very expensive lesson, right? So the more you can guide people to not have those expensive lessons, I think the better, but it can happen. So you want to try and mitigate for that. Does that answer it while I'm coordinating?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for just taking the time to be here with us and even be willing to answer the questions that we're asking. I really feel like you're adding tons of value to the conversation, but I totally understand if you've got other stuff going on. I just appreciate you so much. And we do have a hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Bob up to ask his question, or if he has something to add to the conversation. Come on up, Bob. Be happy to have you. Hi there.
Hi. Hey guys. Thanks so much for letting me in. I'm getting value out of this. I just want you to know that it's definitely appreciated. I appreciate you guys continuing despite the smaller size room. So I wanted to talk a little bit about budget, and Marlena, I was actually in one of your groups last week. So my situation is that I'm eventually moving to a new town, moving to a new state. So from a direct marketing campaign perspective, obviously, although I have experience, I've had years of experience in wholesaling, a real estate investor, and also a realtor. New town, new location, right? Almost no leads. Where do you begin? And of course, the fear is, as Amy mentioned, right? You spend a whole lot of money on a big marketing campaign, and then nothing comes through, and then you're at a shoestring budget. So, what do you suggest is a good place to start?
May I take that for just a moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bob, hi, thank you. And so, can I ask what market?
So I currently live in South Jersey, and I'm moving my family to Florida by the end of this year.
Okay, where in that's where you're marketing, Florida?
I will be. I mean, I haven't done anything yet.
Right.
So
right. And where at in Florida?
Central Florida.
Central Florida. Okay. So here's my take on Central Florida. Right now, for any direct mail campaigns that my company would be doing for you, if I were analyzing your market, I would say, and I'm sending a lot in Florida, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pieces a month. And so I would say that you should probably expect anywhere from 0.5% to 0.75% response rate if you're running on all cylinders. And I would probably expect somewhere around the 2,500 to 3,000 pieces per deal. If we were doing wholesale, we would probably realize somewhere around the 15,000 wholesale mark is what a lot of my clients are seeing, up to 25,000. But when we're pulling lists, Bob, in those areas, we want to be really, really wary of the Airbnbers, right, and the snowbirds, so to speak. Yeah. And so we've got to watch our out-of-state absentees there. And so you want to keep a close eye on those, because we've seen campaigns get ruined because we can't decipher in between, the Airbnb and not. So if we're doing absentee, watch that. Now, I'm having a lot of success. There's actually a mail piece. If you go to reiprintmail.com, if you're able to notate it, SML-2 under letters. Under letters and under self-mailers, it's actually close to the top. But if you check out SML-2, I've actually had in that area, I have a lot of, so I do mail for a lot of real estate investors, a lot of land investors at the same time. Well, we've had this weird overlap going on with this SML-2 mailer for both land and wholesale deals. I would check it out. It's a really, really powerful piece. It's 11 by 17. It's like sending a poster, so it's very compelling. And actually, it's actually rather cheap, because it's a self-mailer is a non-envelope letter. So it's just wafer sealed. And so it's really not that expensive. I'm actually sending it in my market because I saw how great it did in both that area of Florida, in Phoenix, and in New York, all kind of rough markets. Yeah, I would that would probably be my initial recommendation right now, is handwritten, throw a letter into the mix. And then there's a lot more recommendations. If you wanted to actually, you can set a meeting with me on the, if you check the profile, but I can give you a full analyze, market analyzation. But we have to talk more about it. But that's what I would think initially.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the response, and it's very interesting that you say that. So I live in a part of New Jersey that's pretty close to the Jersey Shore beach towns, and we have experienced the exact opposite of what you just spoke about. We get the snowbirds the other half of the year, and the exact same thing, right? We decided, hey, this is about 2 years ago. We're going to look at the investment properties, and we're going to look at the non-owner occupied in the shore towns, and huge list of non-owner occupieds. And why are they non-owner occupied? Because it's either their second home or because they rent it out or something else. And it wasn't necessarily as motivated of a list as we thought it would be, compared to the size of the list. So yeah, it's very interesting to hear you say that because
Right.
they're here the other 6 months of the year, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. And when you have you still have a pretty good exodus coming out of there, right? And actually doing what you're doing, right? So we're moving and we're moving. And so you have a bunch of people doing that. And so that's going to be a totally different market too, compared to the Florida, which you just don't see. You see people going in, not going out. You see prices going up. And you think they're going to go up forever. But the thing is, a lot of these landlords out there, absentee lists are pretty great. But they, because a lot of the landlords bought badly. And they need to get out of them to go do other things. And so I am having success there. But I got to say, in Florida right now, my hierarchy of lists goes something like probate, inheritance, vacants, tax delinquents, and then absentee. But in between tax delinquent and absentee, we probably have some other little smaller lists that you couldn't rely on forever, or you could, because there's just not enough quantity of them. Liens, bankruptcies, of course, right, pre-foreclosures and foreclosures, because the moratoriums just aren't going to be effective right now. But well, I'm not saying they won't be. We should probably be looking at them soon, but it doesn't feel like it right now. But that's probably the hierarchy of the list that I'm mostly looking at and selling, out there. We've got a lot of successful clients out that way. So Florida's a good market.
Yeah.
I have a couple things I'd love to jump in there and give you a couple, like a ninja tip. Brian, you'll probably like this tip. Little ninja tip is that marketing you can pull lists. It's not as difficult as you would think, but people who are our age, whose mom and dad are now in retirement scenarios, who now need to move on to something next, like assisted living and so forth, I would encourage potentially doing some marketing to that demographic using some other channels besides direct mail. So you're sending mail to the actual, this is aged origination dates, aged owner, right, sellers. So generally, potentially high equity, maybe not, but right. But then you're also doing some cast marketing in the area as being some sort of like the local expert on what do you do next when the next. But they have to move on to the next thing, whether it's assisted living or in-home care or whatever. I mean, you being the guy on the ground that really knows that. I say that because in markets that have a higher average age point, it can be really great. And now that's just I could go down a wormhole with that. But here's the thing. If I was your coach, for example, in fact, I absolutely love what you just stated. Hey, Lance, I'm on with this. Can I come back to you? Can you take that to the house, please? That chicken. Okay, sorry, I have children. Okay, shut the door. Okay, so I share often my story. I'm a single mom, I have been for 12 years. I've raised them with no co-parent. And so we have a very interesting, not so conventional household. But at any rate, so one of the things that, if I was your coach, we have a live group thing that we do every day, amongst many of the things that we do to support our coaching community. And I actually posed this exact challenge question last week in our group. I did it with the intention to create some new neuroplasticity, some new ideas and creative thinking amongst our group. We have people who are brand new, all the way up to people who have, flipped 300 homes. They retail list, $250 a year in GCI, gross in, net income, like literally some amazing things, right? So no matter where you are on that scale, I posed this question that's exactly what you're getting ready to experience, which is if I plucked you up out of your current market and I dropped you into a new market, and all I gave you, all you could take with you, you have nobody there, there's nobody but you can have the budget you have now, right? You could have the life experiences that you have, and you could have your current strengths and weaknesses. That's the only three things you can take with you. And here's the challenge. I'm dropping you into a new market, and you have to have revenue, cash in the bank in 30 days from your efforts. What would you do? And it was an amazing challenge that pushed everybody really hard, and it created for them new pathways of thought in their existing businesses that they hadn't even considered, right? So here's people who have amazing systems. You talk about systems, right? Like these guys, you love these guys, I should introduce you. Like these amazing systems, what they're crushing it and doing. And sometimes we get complacent and we get comfortable with the systems that are working, and we don't seem to think outside of the box. You get the blessing of going to a new market and thinking way outside of the box. So I would encourage you, as you're thinking of where are you going to apply your resources, time, money, manpower, and energy, that you also consider first, what intention do you have? I heard you say you're both an investor and licensed. So, there's so many opportunities for you to use both sides of the fence, right? I would really probably put a lot of energy into what results you want, and then start working backwards into all the things that you could do to create those results, so that you quickly create momentum and quickly can start celebrating results. And when you celebrate results, then your momentum just continues to compound, right? Brian, by the way, is a word I love. I love compound. It's an amazing word, right? So I would just encourage, that you had a lot of fun last week, and we had 104 people all answering that question. It was wild, the crazy variety. And then there were some continuous threads that popped up quite a bit too. I would want to build my network right away when I got there. Like, there were some interesting threads that were repeated, but some wildly creative ideas. And some of them are already putting those into motion a week later and already have contracts and things that are going to generate revenue for them. So I would just encourage that creative thought. Be excited, allow yourself to be in a state of excitement and abundance about what's coming next. And you'll have great success. So I can hear that as you ask the question. So.
Great, thank you.
That was so awesome, Amy. Hey, you are preach. That is so awesome. That was great. I'm thinking about what I would do now in that kind of situation. Marlena, you know who's good at this in Bob's Market, where he's going? Who's a master at this? Frank Hopkins.
Oh yeah, Frank is great. I know Frank. He's awesome.
Yeah. He's a master in the market you're going to, and does exactly what Amy was just saying. He kind of thinks ahead about the relocate. He'll get a deal on both ends of the thing, and it's amazing to see him where he's truly a maestro. He does fantastic. And when I'm talking to him compared to all my other clients that are in the industry, he always is like, yeah, but Ryan, I could always sell over on this side. I could do that. I can make a little money less over here, but then they need to relocate. And here I am over here, and I'm going to go ahead and buy this, building over here so that I can relocate this person here. And I mean, he's just fantastic at it, and he's on Clubhouse. So to track him down, his name's Frank Hopkins. He's amazing.
Yeah, and actually, Bob, I'm really good friends with him. We kind of are like informal accountability partners in a lot of way with the business that we do. So I'll be happy to connect you. In fact, you can just reach out to me on my Insta or whatever, and I'll be happy to give you his contact information. He's a great guy. And he does, like, we're in the same market here, but he just goes after it, and he's got every tool in his toolkit, and he makes a deal out of just about every lead that he can go on an appointment for. So he knows his stuff.
Yeah, well, I really, really appreciate that. And I'll definitely reach out to you. I mean, I'm actually going to be in Florida the end of this month for a few days, and looking to do some networking, make some connections. I actually met someone in the Orlando Live REI last week that I'm going to meet up with. So I'll definitely drop you a message to him, would love to connect if that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we're here locally. So, I mean, if you want to get a small group of people together that we just really respect in the area, we could do something like that too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sweet. No problem.
This is great.
Yeah, that's very cool. Oh man, that's a lot of value right there, Bob. That's a lot of value.
Well, we had somebody new step into the room, so I'll just give a quick introduction. We've got a small room this evening, so I guess direct mail marketing wasn't the thing that was going to pull everybody out to the yard this evening. But anyhow, we're talking direct mail marketing. We talk marketing for real estate investors every Monday evening at 7 p.m. And we try and have at least one guest host with us that is going to specialize, kind of talk about a specific topic, so that if we have anybody in the room that is really looking to learn more about that method or ask any questions, that we are here to provide value and content and help you make the connections that you need to be successful. So tonight we have Ryan Dixon with us from REI Print Mail, and he's here talking about his company and what sort of services that they offer and all the types of data crunching that they do. And Amy graciously stepped in and stepped up on our stage this evening, and she's been providing a ton of value as well. Two awesome people that really know their stuff in this field, direct mail marketing and other types of marketing. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. We'd be happy to have you up on stage. And if you know anybody else that would benefit from being a part of this conversation or listening in, hit that little plus button and please invite some more people in. We are also live streaming this just to make sure everybody knows, and this will be available later if anybody wants to check it out. But thanks so much again for being here this evening, you guys. I think probably Tom Kroll actually asked me if I could help him host his first Wholesaling Inc. group at 8:30. So we'll probably definitely be ending before then. But, just want to kind of let you know that it's getting close to 8 o'clock now. And I don't know how much longer you guys want to go, but I'm good until about 8:30. Go ahead, Ryan.
Marlene?
I actually have to jump off real quick so I can handle doing a social studies assignment.
Totally understand.
It was really great. It was really great to connect with you guys. Please connect with you guys a little bit further. Hit me up on Instagram or something. But you guys all have a great night. This is great content. Keep doing it every week. The people will come.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amy. You have a wonderful evening.
I want to, Marlena, I want to give you a little scoop about what's getting ready to happen at the company.
Yeah.
And it's very, very cool. But we are getting ready to launch our probate program. And it is going to go live, I believe, April 1st. Now, we haven't started emailing, but I think April 1st, actually, the emails start going out. But we are going to provide subscription leads for probate that the partner that we took on board only goes physically into the probate office in the county and actually pulls a physical list. 3 weeks later, we have it and we're automating the mail to it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's really great. Do you have an idea of what you're going to be charging for that?
Well, it depends. Every county is different. We're only going to allow. This is actually going to be one of the only things that we don't have for everyone. This is we're only going to allow 5 people per county, and all and we have pricing on all 3,026 counties. I think in the United States right now. I think we're almost done with the module. So every county is going to be different. It's basically set on tiers. I want to say in St. Louis. I'm going to be, because I'm the first customer, that was the rule. I said, look, we'll go down this road, but I'm the one that gets to buy first. And so I'm buying next week. I'm the first beta partner. And I want to say that mine's going to be around 500 or $600 a month in total to include the probate, skip traced, all of the heirs skip traced, all of the trustees skip traced, and the mail automated all in one foul swoop. And it happens automatically every month. By the time I get the list, the mail's on the way.
Oh, wow.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, we've been working on it for a while, so we're pretty proud of it, but I can't wait. I can't wait to get it started. And we've been working with this company who they have not done any partnerships ever like this. And I can't say the company name because we don't have the contract signed yet. That happens here shortly, but we needed someone that physically goes into that has the ground game to get into every county in the United States. We found him, and we've been courting him for a long time, and same with us. So it was absolutely very, very cool. But we're going to be launching that shortly. So if you know anybody that wants any probate subscriptions along with automated mail, that's tested, by the way. We've tested the mail, so even better. But very neat.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So, and I know we just had a couple more people step into the room, so I'll go ahead and introduce really quickly. And hi, Catherine. Glad to see you here.
Hey, Catherine.
So,
Hey.
Good. Thank you. So real quick, this is Marketing for Real Estate Investors, and we're doing it every Monday evening from 7 p.m. to whenever it makes sense to stop. So if we have a super small room, we'll probably cut out early, but the bigger the room, the longer we'll probably go. But anyhow, we're talking tonight about direct mail, and apparently it's not a very popular topic because our room's pretty small this evening compared to most evenings, but we're also live streaming, so I'm sure maybe some people are just waiting to catch it later. But anyhow, we have this evening with us Ryan Dixon from REI Print Mail, and he's talking to us about all the systems and processes and new things that they have on the horizon with their business to help real real estate investors to get their marketing channel for direct mail off the ground, to really track what is going on. And they've got some neat bells and whistles that you can add in that can give you some extra punch for your direct mail. So I'm really glad to have Ryan here with me this evening. We've used their services, and we have some people in the audience that have not connected with Ryan yet, I don't believe. So Ryan, why don't you kind of retell who you are real quick and tell us a little bit about some of the offerings that you have for real estate investors who might want to get started or do something new with their direct mail.
Sure, thank you. So Ryan Dixon, REIPrintmail.com. We are a 30-year company. We've been focusing on real estate investors for 15 of those years, and we serve a lot of the mainstream coaches in the industry. So you'll probably see us around at events. I'm sure a lot of people have seen us on Facebook. But basically, our claim to fame is a few things. One, we're always first with technology. Everyone usually follows behind us. And then the main thing is that we offer direct marketing coaches. And our direct marketing coaches, so if you're my client, then we start with, we analyze your market, and we try to figure out how many pieces it takes to get a deal. What have we seen in the past? What kind of mail pieces are working the best there right now? The marketing winds change often, and so when they do change often, we're here to help steer the ship. And so what we do is we give advice. We help you structure a campaign, figure out cadence, figure out what's working where, and figure out how to best approach in each situation. So everything's different, right? So I do a lot of different coaches mail, including a lot of land wholesalers. So maybe we choose a different tactic with land than we do with wholesaling, or different with subject to, like Lou Brown. We do all their mail, so maybe we go to lower equity and maybe MLS fails and things like that. So we help you pick the list. We have insight on what lists are working and what mail pieces are working. So we kind of take the guesswork out, is the main idea, and that allows you to save some dough. And so, as we go down that path, we work on getting the response rate up. At REI Print Mail, we care about getting deals. That's it. We don't care so much about the cost of the mail piece. We really focus more on what the cost per phone call is. So ultimately, sorry guys, my dog just went absolutely crazy and scared the bejesus out of me. Ultimately, that's what we do. So we guide, we give advice, and we make sure that we're a partner in the response rate and not just selling direct mail. That's not something we're a fan of.
Absolutely. And I know I love your texting feature. So why don't you tell them a little bit about that? Because that's a little bit unique compared to a lot of mail houses.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just getting my dog quieted down here. So the text function is if you give us a list of 10,000, if you give us a list of 10,000 addresses, we give you we append that list with 10,000 short codes. When that happens, and each short code is unique to that mail piece, we print it on the mail piece. So you might have a mail piece that has a picture of the house, the Google image, very popular. And when that happens, we print it, and it says, maybe, is this your house? I want to buy it. Please text ABCD to 1234 or call, and you've got your tracking number. Pretty simple. Well, if they text that short code, two things happen. One, you get an email with their first name, last name, property address, mailing address, and cell phone number. And the prospect gets a text message from you out of our system that introduces you and tells them you're going to be calling soon. So what that does is it takes the guesswork when you're calling that person. Anybody who sends a lot of mail has this problem. You call and say, hey, stranger, where do you, or they call you and you say, hey, stranger, where do you live? And they go, you should know where I live. You sent a mail piece, but you sent thousands. So then in which case, this kind of gets around that, because you're not answering the call not knowing who it is. You're calling them saying, hey, Barbara, so you got a property at 1422 Floraville Lane. I've already done some research on it. We're interested. Tell me the story about the property. And so that's the text function in general. Now, we invented that about 2 years ago. and it did two things. One, we thought it was going to replace phone calls. It did not. It added to them, usually by about 15 to 25% on the response rate. The other thing is that it allowed us to start seeing when people placed orders and bought this reverse texting function, Accutext, whatever you want to call it. It has a few names at this point. But when people purchased it on their own, we started being able to see what works where, because we could see the response rate, because we can track them. So we can help you with the KPI reports on those. But we can see a portion of the response rate, and we can see, wow, Pink's working really well over here in Delaware, or Handwritten's working really well in Texas if we increase the size by double. So we're able to get that information. Nobody else is, which is very, very, very cool. We can't take all the credit for that. We just wanted to bolster the response rate. But then we figured out, wow, it's going to give us some insight into what's working where. And that kind of was our claim to fame, because our clients' response rates started going up. And then in which case, of course, more deals, and then longer term clients, and then more referrals. And before you know it, we're one of the premier print and marketing companies in the United States for the real estate investor.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I love that feature. I mean, anything that you can do to call people to action in multiple ways in your marketing and your direct mail specifically, I think it's always very helpful, because not everybody wants to pick up the phone and call. So if they have an option to text and get more information, or call a 24-hour recorded, or go to your website or whatever it may be, that's always very helpful. And I brought Catherine up here. Catherine, I don't know exactly what you do as far as marketing for your stuff, but we are talking about direct mail this evening. So did you have a question or maybe something you wanted to add to the conversation?
No, we actually have used Ryan with some of our direct mail. We do a lot of that on our wholesaling side of the business, and then we do a lot of Facebook ads on the loan side, because we want to filter through people who are just saying, oh, I want to buy a house, and not provide all the documentation. But we do a lot of direct mail.
Awesome. Well, talk to us a little bit about how you use direct mail. And we were talking a lot earlier about kind of how important the data is to really track if you're going to do really any marketing channel and have it be successful. But with direct mail, maybe you could talk a little bit about what you do and how you track it.
So we do a lot of call rail numbers when we track our market, as I'm sure it's similar to y'all's over in Orlando. A lot of the big gurus and things like that and YouTube videos say to target absentee owners. But if that's all we targeted, at least in St. Petersburg, Sarasota, we would only be targeting people that have second homes down here, and they're not going to sell those. So we target a lot of high equity, probates, foreclosures, things like that. And then I love direct mail because I spend a couple of hours working on it once a month and then forget about it for the next month, and the leads come in. So we divide it up by counties and by list into our call rail tracking numbers, and that's how we keep track of our KPIs inside of Podio.
Awesome. And what specifically do you track for your KPIs?
So we are tracking which list is performing and how quickly the turnaround time is on everything, as well as what list brings in larger wholesale fees. So we found that our larger fees normally come from the probate leads, but we're doing more quantity off of high equity.
You know, I think that's so important. And I know, Bob, you were asking before about kind of what to start with and make sure you're not just going to waste your money. And I agree. I mean, Ryan was giving you a whole list of different things that they offer, but anything that is going to be a little bit harder for somebody to get, that they have to do a little bit more work, they can't just buy it from somewhere online really easily. That's always going to be the better data, because there's going to be less people competing with it. But I noticed down here, every time we send an absentee equity list, it's like everybody's sending to that. So there's a lot more people working that list because it's pretty easy to get, compared to like the probate leads, for example, like Ryan was talking about. And obviously that's working really well for Catherine as well. But going back to Ryan's point earlier, that's not going to make up a huge list for you. So I like to do what Catherine does and pull some high equity. I'll still do the absentee. I'm not going to like chuck that list just because there's competition on it. But I get a lot more deals off of my plain equity list. And then those niche lists like your probates or evictions when the eviction moratorium isn't holding you back, liens, that sort of thing, especially like water liens on people's homes. Although in some localities, I think I have a friend in Jersey who said that you can't turn off people's water right now. So I don't know if that's, across the country or what. Go ahead. Did you have something you want to say, Bob?
Oh, no, I did. I was actually going to comment that, I've had experience with mailing to probate leads. And a very interesting thing about it, I think, is that if you can have the type of personality, and I think it's someplace that I actually was pretty successful in our area here, if you have the type of personality to deal with probate leads, you will extremely set yourself apart, because I think a lot of people have a tough time with the empathy that it takes and the process for dealing with probate. So it's a great list, and I think you probably wind up with less competition, because I think a lot of people will steer away from it because it really is a tough conversation, and it's oftentimes there's more than just one step in actually purchasing the home. You have to help them through the probate process sometimes.
Sure.
Well, I love that. Oh, I'm sorry, Marlena, can I ask Bob a question?
Yeah, go for it.
So Bob, I mentioned earlier, and you heard that we're getting ready to launch our probate program across the United States, so that you can order a subscription and automate your mail to it, so that you don't have to touch it. And we have done a lot of research on this topic, and so I wanted to ask you the $1 million question. When you mail to, and by the way, Catherine, you and Marlena just add to this. When you mail to your probates, are you mentioning the death? Are you mentioning probate itself, or are you mentioning loved one, so to speak? If I could get everybody's feedback on that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
My short answer is no.
I am,
Yeah.
but not in the way that you stated. I say in regards to the state up, and I do actually a letter for those, not a postcard, like the height.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I leave it off.
Handwritten letter.
Yeah, we do the handwritten postcard for it, but I just put whoever's name is on it, and it's my regular postcard. I use it across the board, and I don't care if it's going to somebody that, they had somebody die. I don't mention that somebody died. I just say I'm interested in buying this house. And if they say, how'd you get my number? I say, well, I just have a data service. I enter addresses, and it gave me your information. Are you not the owner of the house? And then we're having a conversation about the house. It's not like it's starting out with a conversation about bereavement and condolences or the estate or anything. Like, I like it better that people don't know that I know, even though I do.
Right. And so, Marlena, I was in your camp. Initially, and then we did all this research with our new probate partners, and we came up with two things that absolutely shocked me. One is that the majority of the people that we're sending with our probate partner that we're marketing were mentioning the death because they were getting better response rates and more deals. Now, they were mentioning the word probate. They were not, and maybe they would chuck it into, we buy vacant homes, we buy tired landlord homes. By the way, we do probate, and they would kind of breeze past it. Some of them would actually mention the death in kind of a loved one, so to speak, which that worries me, right? What if they didn't love them, which is possible. And then also the other thing that really shocked me, and Catherine, you can probably speak to this, is we noticed that after 4 months, if the probate was 4 months old, the response rate tanked. I mean, tanked.
Well, that's probably because somebody else bought it.
Right. I agree. So anyway, we thought, well, hey, maybe you could get some more of those leads going forward. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. After we looked at it, we thought, you know what? Very, very time decayed list. Very time decayed.
100%. That's actually the only list that we repeatedly mail right away. So like when we do a high equity, because there's so many high equity, and Marlena, we're not mailing absentee owners. They're looped in and part of the high equity list. We're just not filtering out those because there's not a large enough population that need to sell, where if you have a second non-occupied home in, Johnson City, Tennessee, you're more likely to sell it opposed to St. Petersburg, Florida. But our high equity list is the only one that we're mailing on I think it's bi-weekly basis right now. And they're slightly different letters in all of them, but they all regard and address to the state of XYZ. We're sorry to hear about that. We have experience purchasing properties. It's worded a lot better than this, and I'm sorry. I'm like so all over the place today. We have experience helping families through this transition. If there's properties, whether it's the one stated above or an additional property that they need to move out of, or at least take off their plate as it incurs taxes, overhead holdings, and sits vacant type of scenario, but worded a lot better.
No, I think that's great. And Ryan, that's really interesting with that information. And I personally, because I used to send letters and it was very carefully laid out and expressing my condolences. And I got so many people that would call me and cry on the phone and tell me, how dare you send this? And, I was like, all right, maybe I can try a different approach. And it started working out a lot better. And when people would call and they'd say, well, I don't actually own it. It needs to go through probate. They were kind of calling when they were ready. And it wasn't really as much a conversation about, them being bereaved anymore. I wasn't getting those calls anymore where somebody was upset that I was specifically reaching out to them for that reason. But I mean, you can't lie, you can't argue with the data, right? The data doesn't lie. So I definitely need to take a better look at that.
I was absolutely surprised. Well, I guess I wasn't surprised, but I mean, I thought that the response would be like you were saying, maybe more aggravated, right? And how dare you? And so, really, I think you have to put those into two categories. You've got inheritance, and then you've got probate. Probate's further along in line, right? So we're going to be offering inheritance and probate. But when you have inheritance, we're seeing that is kind of right when the bad stuff happened. Right, so when some inheritance are going to go to probate, not vice versa. So the thing is that when you're right at the precipice where something just happened and it's fresh, we're seeing that, and we're just now starting these tests, but we're seeing that the more aggravated phone calls are happening when you're at kind of closer to the whole death, rightfully so. Right.
Sure. Well, let me ask you real quick on that note, what is the difference for your company with inheritance versus probates? Because to me, I always thought, and I've been hearing this from other marketing companies as well, same thing that you're talking about, but I thought inheritance was after it went through probate and somebody now has gotten title to the property through that process.
No, so our partners that we're partnering up with make it very clear that inheritance is a pre-probate, basically. And maybe they're at the beginning stages and the court papers have just been filed and the property is going to the rightful person, maybe, right? If there's a challenge of some sort or an heir that is not isn't necessarily mentioned, or you don't have a proper will. Having a will nowadays is getting more and more useless. You really need a trust and you need a plan, and in order for the judge to look at it and go with confidence, we are moving this property down the line. And if they can't, then of course it goes into probate. And so our partners have out that inheritance should be considered a pre-probate, and now some of them will end up in probate, but most of them will not.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I always had a different perspective because I always went into the public records and dug stuff out myself when I was first getting started, and so I've long held a misperception about that, but I've been hearing that more and more. Well, I appreciate everybody being here this evening, and I just want to kind of reset the room and let you know that we're going to be ending here at about 8:30. So I'm Marlena Dates, and this is Marketing for Real Estate Investors, and we're here every Monday evening. Usually I have a co-host, Carrie, but she wasn't able to make it on tonight. But we try and bring on a different guest host every week that is an expert in a certain topic related to marketing for real estate investing. And tonight we have Ryan Dixon from REI Print Mail joining us to talk about direct mail marketing, specifically. And his company offers a lot of services for real estate investors, including analyzing the data from customers across the country and their long history to be able to see what is really working the best in any given market, and to be able to coach and educate the people that are their clients that are working with them. And I just want to say real quickly, and I know Catherine feels the same way because she was just talking about it, but what I love so much about direct mail marketing is that you really don't have to have a lot of effort to get it going. It's something that you can spend a couple hours on, like Catherine said, maybe on a monthly basis, or sometimes people even plan it out a couple of months in advance. You set it, you forget it. You have a great company like Ryan's that's going to handle everything for you, treat you right, and then you just manage your leads as they come in. And you can drip it out over time, so you're not getting a huge flush of leads all at once. You can adjust things as you want. That's your marketing machine, and it's so easy to run it and get leads coming in. And oftentimes, if they've raised their hand on a postcard or a letter, they're already showing that there's some sort of motivation there. If they're not just calling to tell you to take them off your list, then the possibility is very real that is going to be a motivated lead that you're talking to, compared to something else like cold calling or cold texting, those sorts of things where you actually need additional labor to even just generate the leads. And then by the time you talk to so many people, you're hoping that a few of those are going to turn into deals. So I really love direct mail marketing. It's always been my standby. I've been doing this since 2012. So I always fall back on direct mail, although I do other strategies as well. And I know Ryan's company has a lot of great things to offer. And we invited Catherine up here. Has a lot of background in direct mail marketing as well. And Bob's up here as a speaker. He was asking some questions. I just want to let everybody know we won't be here for too much longer. So if anybody in the audience does have a question, or you'd like to come up and share what you do with direct mail, if you have something that you could offer that's valuable to the audience members, then please do just raise your hand. And again, we're only here for another 10 minutes or so, but if you want to bring anybody into the room, hit that little plus button. You can invite some people in. But I want to kind of go back because, again, Ryan, we had a couple more people step into the room. So, if you maybe can just tell them, like, what you would, if somebody was going to call you to like consult with you on their business and starting, or, maybe migrating their direct mail that they might be doing somewhere else to your company, what would that look like? What kind of like consultation do you do, and how do you help them work out what they should be doing?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And so if you go to my profile, ryan.reiprintmail.com, you can get to my Calendly there, so you can set a meeting and we can analyze your market. But that's exactly what we do, right? We analyze your market. So we get to know each other for the first 30 minutes. So we set a 30-minute meeting or a 1-hour meeting. We get to know each other, and I get to know your strategy, because we have to know what the goals are. And so after we get to know each other, and we get the strategy, whether it's subject twos or wholesale or fix and flip, or creating a buffet of homes to choose from while I'm wholesaling the ones I don't want, or land, whatever, what have you. Once we figure out what that strategy is and we know what the market is, then generally we have a second meeting that is all analytical. And so we go through, after I go get some numbers, we look up what your average piece per deal is, what your average response rate should be. I share my screen with you. We get on a Zoom call and I show you the mailing pieces that should be working in your area, and how maybe to change them a little bit based on what we've seen. And then we really go into a cadence march. How many calls can you accept, and can you take them responsibly? I mean, the fact is, sometimes I do my job too well, and the biggest expense in this business is unrealized gains, losing that $20,000-$30,000 deal. Well, we can't do that if we've got phone calls coming in one on top of the other, and you're kind of new to the process, or maybe it's not a weathered process and you don't have VAs to help or people to help you. Then we need to know that. So we have that discussion, and we say, all right, how many calls can we expect? So then that kind of answers the cadence question. Then the rest of it's really mathematical and probable, right? So we have to figure out how many pieces it takes to get a deal, or how many to get X amount of phone calls to get X amount of deals. And then that really helps us scale. And so what we do generally is we pick a control piece in the market. This is a strategy I'm using right now because we've got very chaotic markets when COVID met holidays, met political at the end of Q4. What we do is we really we pick a control piece and we put, let's say, a 3-drop campaign. We've got a control piece, a test piece, and a control piece. Well, we like to do that right now because handwritten is kind of taken back over from the whole picture of the house on it. So in order to test that in the market, we take what we've been seeing that works, and we have a control piece, so we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And that way we can always get deals while we're testing to see which method we're going to continue with, and then really cash in on that strategy and send the winner of those tests for the rest, let's say the rest of the half of the year for those last 2 quarters, and really rake in the deals once we kind of figure out exactly what's going on. Now, after that, I've got clients that are, 2 years, 3 years old that are even sending the same thing. And the reality is that a good campaign could be rather boring. I've got a client up in Delaware that was sending the same thing for 2 years, 3 years based on my recommendations. And then he got his broker's license. And he said, you know what? I want to change. I said, now that I'm a broker, I want to be more professional and I want to change this. And I said, response rate is a sensitive thing. I don't recommend that we do it. He said, Ryan, I'm making orthopedic surgeon money, and I don't care if this costs me a little bit of response rate. I want to change to this card. And I said, okay, done. You're the boss. And we did it, and we lost our response rate. It dropped off the face of the planet. But it was not that different of a card. It was simply a little bit different design with a little bit different color scheme, but he lost it. And so then we had to go back. I said, we've got to revert back. We've got to go back to what we were doing, what we know, and what was making you that orthopedic surgeon money. And you were making that for a reason, right? Because we had it dialed in. We knew what piece we should send. Then I know that it's boring, but stick with it, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's kind of a snapshot of what we do. And by the way, we do it for free. The only way you pay me is with direct mail purchases and list purchases. Skip trace if you need it. So those are the things we do, and we're really proud of what we've done, because we've got some of the biggest clients and coaches in the industry, and we're growing like a weed. So we're doing really well.
Thank you, Ryan. And I just want to stress to everybody out there something that Ryan said just there about changing up things because you think or feel like he just schooled me with some data. So I'm like, well, there I go again. I made a change that was just from my gut. And ultimately, it's not really based in data, which is why you really have to track your KPIs and you have to know what you're doing. And that's why it's so great that you can leverage a company like REI Print Mail and Ryan specifically as one of the representatives to really find out what does it take in my market without you having to spend so much money on trial and error to test and figure that out on your own as you go. I mean, to have them in your corner is just, that's a game changer. So I just want to recommend to everybody, if you do have any interest in direct mail, whether you're already doing some direct mail or you're just thinking about it, that check Brian out. Go to his profile. Definitely make sure you're following him, but connect with him. He's got his Calendly link in there. You can sign up for a free consultation. And he's awesome. I've known him for a little over a year now, and we've been fast friends. And I love seeing him at events and everything. I love his energy, and they really just kill it with what they do in their business. So definitely take advantage of that opportunity. And, they can help you get off on the right foot or dial in what you're already doing. And Catherine, I think you go ahead. Did you have something to say?
I have a question for Ryan. Is the pink postcard still the top performing postcard?
No.
When did that change?
Probably about 3 months into COVID. Very interesting. So we saw it take a turn to. So actually, Catherine, and I just mentioned this to Bob because he's going to kind of your neck of the woods. But SML-1 is what we're seeing. So if you go to reiprintmail.com and you go to letters and you go to self mailers, SML-1 is easily taking the cake right now, and it's an 11 by 17 piece, and it is like sending your client a poster, but it's really only about the cost of a letter because it's a letter without a postcard and it's huge. A letter without an envelope and it's huge. So it's following that handwritten mantra. There's a lot of theories around this, but we saw that people stopped responding as much to the more markety, advertising pieces, and the pink one was doing so awesome, especially in Florida for so long. TAPCM7, but it changed when COVID came about, and people, I guess, wanted a more subtle response. Again, working theories, we don't know. A lot of times we don't know why. We just know what people are ordering, and then we see the response rate behind it. And I'll tell you that handwritten letters really have started taking the cake, and who knows how long that'll last.
Okay, Ryan, so I've got my laptop open, but you said all of that way too fast. So if I do the letters or the postcard section?
So go to letters.
Oh, okay, that's where I messed up.
SML-1. Okay.
And you said the SLM?
SML-2, and it is 2 to the right under self-mailers, and you can click on the picture to make it bigger. And now that one has a 48-hour kind of offer thing. So I'm sending this in my current market now. I'm sending about 5,000-6,000 of these a month. I'm getting a fantastic response rate, a little over 2%. I'll tell you that I took a few of those things out and I added God bless because one, my religion allows it and I do it. But it definitely bolsters response rate. I have conversations about it all the time. But that handwritten letter there, and it's not even really a letter, it's a self-mailer, but it's really compelling. At the same time, it's handwritten, so it kind of scratches that itch where the people that have to open, they got to open something, so you still have to open it. So its finish size is 5.5 by 11, so it's just massive. It's huge.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, I like that one. That's pretty cool looking. I'm looking at it now. We're going to have to go ahead and tie this room off for the evening because at 8:30 here, and he just started the room. If any of you are not familiar with Tom Kroll of Wholesaling Inc., he is a wholesaling coach, and he also does a lot of financial literacy coaching, and he's just an all-around awesome person. And he is starting a room right now, the first Wholesaling Inc. Club pod room, I think. I don't know exactly what you call it, a club room or something, but he invited us to all come over there and check it out. So I'm going to migrate over there, but I just wanted to remind everybody we'll be here next Monday evening at 7 p.m. We're doing a local, I'm getting a, sorry about that. Or Tuesday nights, we do REI Live Orlando for local investors. So Bob, I hope to see you again there. And everybody check out Ryan Dixon, reiprintmail.com. And please do sign up with a consultation with him if you have any interest in even just learning more about this, even if you're not sure you want to pull the trigger yet. If you just want to dig into some data with him and figure out what that might look like, you definitely need to check him out. So thank you everybody for being here this evening. I appreciate you all, and I hope to see you again next week. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Catherine. Bob.
Thank you, Marlena. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Bob, everyone.
Thanks, guys. It was great.
Bye.
Y'all have a wonderful evening. See you soon.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye. Okay. Coaching Inc. How to build your tribe fast. Oh, that's Coaching Inc. That's different. He said Wholesaling Inc. What?
On my website. Yeah, I did real estate for 6.5 years and just tried to master it, and I think a lot of people that want to get into the education